Yeah. Could you please explain your food in specialty of food? And do you eat anything outside except the Jewish house or hotels?
Okay, I don't even eat in all Jewish houses. I only eat in kosher places that follow the strict kosher dietary laws, which in a nutshell is with certain animals that the Torah tells us we can eat.
Yeah.
They have to have split hooves, they have to chew the cud, which means they have one stomach, they regurgitate their food. Fish have to have fins and scales, so no seafood, no squid or I don't know, eels or prawns or anything like that. Birds have to be specifically mentioned in the Torah. That's what a kosher species is. The reason for this we do not know. It's God-given. Okay, some laws we know the reasons. Shabbat, the Sabbath, you have a day off once a week. It's like creation, God rested. Okay, not stealing makes sense. Okay, fine. Not murdering makes sense. But why we can only eat certain animals and not others, we don't know. It's a law that God gave us. We follow it blindly because He gave it to us. It's one of those laws that we follow out of blind faith to Him. So first it has to be a kosher species. It has to be killed in a special way called shechita with a very sharp knife. We don't eat blood. It's mentioned in the Torah. So
yeah.
Kosher meat is salted with very strong, coarse salt, and it's washed very thoroughly to remove any blood. So they say kosher meat tastes very salty. There's certain parts of the animals we don't eat. There's all kinds of things. That's number one. So meat is very strict. You have to buy kosher meat, which means that a rabbi somewhere, people think they bless and they sprinkle holy water. It's not true. They simply make sure the process is observed of the kosher laws. So obviously you have to understand the kosher laws to say that it's kosher. Just like if I would present a food to you and say this food is suitable for somebody who is allergic to certain things, you'd say, well, how do you know? And say, well, we had a food technologist who understands the issues. So kosher, a rabbi is basically a kosher food technologist who understands the kosher laws, which are very strict. So first of all, issues with meat. We don't mix meat and milk. That's traditional. We have separate dishes for meat and for dairy. So even kosher pizza is not going to have pepperoni on it, even kosher pepperoni.
Yeah.
And basically, we're very strict. We take it beyond that. So for example, a product, any product which has an animal product in, we have to be very careful about from the kosher perspective. So if the factory used some kind of animal product in production, even if it's a tiny amount, we're very careful. It's like we're allergic to it. So basically, I have a little book, I don't have it here, it's called The Kosher Guide. So they've looked into things, so Mars are kosher, for example, a lot of crackers and things that quote kosher, a lot of prepared meals and things you get in supermarkets are not kosher because we don't always know what goes into them. I personally wouldn't eat in a regular restaurant, even vegetarian, because I don't know for sure that everything's 100% okay. I'm very strict. I would only eat in a kosher restaurant. A Jewish belief, obviously, we all eat, hopefully, so every time you eat, you have to think about your religion, your religious beliefs. In Israel, for example, it's much easier to buy kosher food because it's a Jewish country. In America, there's a lot of kosher food. There are a lot of normal products you can buy in the supermarket, particularly when it comes to cooked things. If you invited me round for dinner, I would decline politely, because I don't expect you to be familiar with the kosher laws.
Yeah.
I would either give you a wrapped kosher meal, which you could heat in the microwave for me, or I would have, some fruit and a cold drink. The kosher laws obviously define us as a culture because we're very strict about it.
Strict,
And they're very central, and most Jewish people, to some degree, will keep the kosher laws, certainly. Perhaps more so than go to synagogue even.
Yeah. Do you have any special training for the rabbi? I mean, rabbi, if you become rabbi, do you need any special training?
Well, technically being a rabbi simply means that you have a diploma in Jewish, well, more than that, I suppose, a doctorate in Jewish law.
Yeah.
So I studied some of these books, are books of the Bible and all different things, but a number of these are books of specific Jewish law. I'll move that way. Yeah. Specific Jewish law. In fact, here we have the Talmud, which gives all the discussions and debate about the law. It's like Hansard from Parliament. It's giving all the opinions. And we have the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, which tells you how to lead your life. So a rabbi is somebody who is ordained as a minister. They've studied Jewish law. You could be an ordained rabbi, and you could be, with the greatest respect, a bus driver. In fact, in Israel, it's quite common. A person could be a rabbi, they could be a bus driver, they could be a librarian, they could be a teacher, they could be a doctor, they could be anything.
Yeah.
So it's a title.
Yeah.
Just like I suppose you could be a Christian minister, but not practicing with a congregation.
Yeah.
So ordination means you are given the title rabbi, it's a teacher, you've learned a certain amount of Jewish law. You have to be religious. No one's going to ordain somebody that doesn't keep kosher but studied all the laws. So if you have a PhD in Jewish law but you're not religiously observant of Jewish law, you wouldn't get the title.
Okay.
I'm a congregational rabbi. That means I use my ordination and I lead a congregation. Obviously I lead services, I teach, I counsel people and so on. But some rabbis don't. Some might be teachers in schools, some, as I said, might have regular jobs. It's just, you get the ordination anyway. Vocational training depends where you go. I had some vocational training, like counselling or, public speaking, things like that. Some rabbis get voice training because they have to sing in the synagogue. Some people have more specific training. It's quite common now. My colleague in Allerton Synagogue, he's a trained social worker from Israel, which is very helpful. Obviously, social work there's an overlap with pastoral work when you're dealing with people and their problems and so on. It's quite common to find rabbis that might have counselling qualifications or public speaking qualifications or fundraising experience or marketing and PR. These are all useful skills to have, certainly. But it depends on the individual rabbi. Technically, it's just a qualification in Jewish law.
Yeah.
But today's rabbi has to be a jack of all trades.
You have any hierarchy system like a Roman Catholics, like
Right.
the Pope and the priest?
We have the chief rabbi, Lord Sachs, who's very well known through his broadcasting in the Times and in the media. So he's our figurehead. As an Orthodox rabbi, there are certain policies that are clearly set by the London Beth Din or by Manchester Beth Din, which are basically rabbinical organisations and, if you like, Jewish religious bodies.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I decided that we don't have to have kosher food in the synagogue anymore,
Yeah.
I would probably get fired, because my officers would say that that goes against Orthodox Judaism. We have very clear boundaries. We have separate seating of men and women. That's very strict in Orthodox synagogues.
Yeah.
If I said, oh, the men and women can sit together, I would be struck off by the chief rabbi. But by and large, I'm what's the word, autonomous. As long as I follow Jewish law, but I would follow Jewish law anyway as an Orthodox rabbi. So there aren't generally a lot of conflicts, but there is a hierarchy. The chief rabbi is our figurehead, but it's more a figurehead type of a role. But Orthodox synagogues pretty much fall into the same sort of sets of rules and regulations. You'll find the same traditions and the same customs, more or less. So it's not generally something that gets tried. The Anglican Church is much more, they have much more issues with the hierarchy of being more liberal or being more conservative. An Orthodox rabbi has pretty strict guidelines of what they go by, to be honest. So within an Orthodox synagogue, although the membership might be more diverse and liberal, when they come to the synagogue, they expect it to be traditional. I think very similar to Catholics.
Yeah.
You have people who are big admirers of John Paul II who practice birth control, even though he was against it, but they think he was amazing. So a lot of Orthodox congregants might not strictly follow all the Orthodox laws, but they like to connect with an Orthodox traditional synagogue. They like that authentic feel. There are non-Orthodox movements. There's Reform, there's Masorti. They are not as strict about certain things. But most people tend to affiliate with Orthodox, even if they're not strict themselves, if that makes any sense. So they might not go to synagogue the whole time, but when they're looking for Judaism, they're looking for that traditional type of Orthodoxy.
Anyway, thank you for giving this opportunity again. And I know this time is very precious, and you spent a lot of time with us. And this interview, I think this interview will get more awareness our community about the Judaism. And very thank you for this opportunity.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks.